Good afternoon, folks. Now let's do topic B again. Here we go. Remember, the title is Rural Workforce Crisis is a Choice We Keep Making. Okay? Rural America is running out of people to care for its people. Not because the work isn't meaningful, not because communities aren't worth saving, but because our policies have made it nearly impossible for clinicians to stay. I see it every day, every week in northwestern Pennsylvania. A nurse who drives 42 miles each way because she can't afford housing near the hospital. A paramedic who sleeps in his truck between 24-hour shifts. A family doctor who loves her patients but is drowning in administrative tasks that have nothing to do with healing. These are not personal failures, they are policy failures. For decades, we have treated rural health care as an afterthought. Funding it last, funding it last, regulating it first, and expecting it to survive on grit alone. But grit is not a workforce strategy, and hope is not a pipeline. We know what works. Uh, Education classes to advance people keeps keeps physicians in rural communities. Scope of practice modernization unleashes the full strength of team-based care. Housing policy for clinicians stabilizes retention. K-12 health career pathways build a hometown workforce that stays. The question is not whether we know the solutions. The question is whether we will choose them. Rural communities deserve more than admiration for their resilience. They deserve a workforce. They deserve a system then that sees them. They deserve a future, and that future is still within reach if we stop treating rural healthcare as a charity and start treating it as infrastructure. If we want rural economics to grow, we must start with the workforce that keeps them alive. Every rural economic development plan eventually runs into some immovable barrier. The healthcare workforce. You cannot grow a community if you cannot staff its clinics, stabilize its EMS, or keep its hospital open. In Pennsylvania, in Pennsylvania, as much as in much of the country, rural counties are aging faster than urban ones. Employers struggle to recruit because prospective workers ask the most regional, relational question. Who will take care of my family if we move there? The answer too often is no one, but the world workforce crisis is not inevitable. It's solvable. And the return on investment is enormous. States that have expanded rural residency programs see physicians stay 2 or 3 times the national rate. Communities that build healthcare pipelines retain local talent. Regions that invest in telehealth infrastructure attract specialists who would never otherwise practice there. This is not just healthcare policy. It's it is economic policy. A stable workforce keeps hospitals open, keeps EMS running, keeps older adults aging safely at home, and keeps employers confident enough to invest in it. It is the foundation on which every other rural strategy rests on. If we want rural America to grow, we must start with the workforce that keeps it alive. The human story. The last nurse on the night shift. At 2:17 a.m., the call light blinked again. Down the hall, down the hall, our only night shift nurse, one nurse for an entire rural unit, took a breath, straightened her shoulders, and walked toward the room she had already worked. Through 2 admissions, a fall, and a family in crisis. She would not leave until dawn. This is what rural healthcare looks like in 2026. Not because our nurses lack skill or heart, but because our systems lack people. We have built a rural workforce model that depends on heroism, and heroism is not sustainable. The nurse on that night shift is not alone. She is part of a national pattern. Rural hospitals closing obstetric units, EMS crews running with 2 volunteers instead of 4, behavioral health deserts stretching across entire counties. But she is also part of a solution if we choose to build one. We can expand rural training pathways so clinicians learn in communities that need them. We can modernize scope of practice laws so teams can work at the top of their training. We can invest in housing, safety, and retention so rural clinics can build lives, not just careers. The nurse on the night shift deserves more than applause. She deserves colleagues. She deserves a system that honors the weight she carries. She deserves a community that chooses to keep its caregivers close. A rural America is worth saving, and the people who care for it are worth saving too. Okay, guys, that is your B. I will be back on in a few minutes with C. Give me a few for a break, please, and I'll be right with you for C.